Hard. All right, so good morning, you guys. Okay, so speaking of the Omer, we're in the week of Tiferet. So that's what the practice is going to be about today. Tiferet is, first of all, it's heart center, and it translates, Kabbalistically, translates into beauty, harmony, balance. It's this integration and synergy of opposites. It's how so the first two sefirot in the tree of life the first 2 weeks of the Omer were chesed. Chesed is abundant, overflowing generosity and kindness and love and this giving out, from our hearts. That's chesed. And then the second week of counting the Omer is Gevura. And Gevura is the opposite of that. It's this constraint and pulling back and boundaries and restriction and limitation and the ability to say no and to be harsh and to have more judgment and say, like, this is right, this is wrong. So those are two sides of the same coin, but they're opposites. And then you get Tiferet, which is in the central path. And it's considered to be, so you have, how I like numbers and geometry. A 2 is an opposition. It's a tug of war. It's a this or that, black or white. And we tend to see things as polar opposites, but that really isn't ever the truth. What's the truth is it's this and that. Life is up and it's down, where we experience joy and we experience pain and suffering. And they don't exist in a vacuum separate than each other. They are always coexisting, but we're either giving our attention to one or to the other as if they're opposites. And we're conditioned as humans to seek pleasure and to avoid pain. And we want to reject the negative, hard things, and we want to go in the direction of ease and comfort. But they both exist all the time. And Tiferet is that understanding of how do you actually hold an awareness and integrate both. How do you integrate both? And it is about when we can do that, we come to a sense of being in alignment with life as it is and being in harmony with ourselves, with others. So that's what Tiferet is really about. So I thought we'd do a little bit of a practice that involves, noticing like the oppositional forces, but continuing to come back to the center. I'll also say that we just had Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and the month of Iyar, Kabbalistically, is associated with the letter Vav. The letter Vav, if you know, is like the tall, long letter, and it has its head up in the, upper realms and its feet planted firmly on the ground. And in the Eitz Chaim, Kabbalistically, it is the central path. And the central path is where all opposites meet and harmonize. So we're in a month of trying to find harmony, trying to find balance. And in this week with the Omer counting, that's what we're also doing. Okay, so I thought we would start with even breathing. In yoga, we call it samriti breath. And all you're going to do is we're going to sit maybe for like 2-3 minutes in a breathing practice. You're going to count your in-breath and count your out-breath, and you're trying to have them be equal. So whatever pace you want to count at, whether it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, slow, at whatever works for you. You also can count it by just saying like in. So you give your mind some words, some sound to focus, but you're watching the length of the breath come in, and then you're watching the length of the breath come out, and you want it to be even. You have an option with the pauses in between. You can take no pause, just go in and out. You can take a pause that you can count for the, some people call it box breathing, where it's an even count. Inhale for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4. In my experience, some people get very anxious with that because the pauses, especially the exhale pause, some people feel a little like, so I would play with what is right for you. I'm less concerned with the timing of the pauses than the in and the out being a sense of evenness. And you want maybe bring yourself to a sense of like being at the ocean and listening to the way the tide, it rolls in and then it rolls out and it rolls in and it rolls out with a sense of like calmness. Okay, so now be quiet. Just find yourself sitting comfortably, and we're just gonna breathe and you're just gonna observe. Just coming to a sense of calm, body and mind. So this feeling of being equally at peace with the arising in the inhale and equally at peace with the exhale. And you can bring your hands over your heart center. And just asking yourself, where in my life would I like to have more harmony, peacefulness, more ease, sense of being in greater balance? And then just offering up like a kavanah, an intention that whatever we do in this morning's practice, it just gives you some insight into how to create that balance for yourself. All right, let's just start by bringing your feet together, knees out to the side, and just take some circles. You can take like semicircles, depending what your hips need this morning. Or you can take all the way around circles. Just noticing if one side or the other needs more attention. One side is giving you different sensation than the other. So we're not always in balance. That's just the truth of things. We're usually on one side of the scale or the other, tipping one direction or the other. It's really hard to find that center point, you know? Sometimes we know when we're there. You know, sometimes we know because it just feels like that, like, oh, it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? This bed is too hard, and this bed is too soft, and this bed is just right. And this oatmeal is too hot, and this oatmeal is too cold, and this porridge is like just right. You know, sometimes we find that just right experience. And then the thing is to not get attached to that either. Because we're not gonna stay there. We know it's gonna, everything passes. We're gonna get thrown into the depths or thrown into the heights again. All right, now just kind of go like this and just like lean. Oh, is anybody else's tush really sore? Do you feel that? Like, what the heck? Oh my gosh. Like that simple thing. And I am so now aware of how my glutes are locked up. Okay. Ah, yeah. Okay. Let's do a little bit of a hip thing here, just again to open up those hip joints. Good, and then take the other side. Good, and then depending what you're able to do, either just crisscross seated, if it's available to you and you can bring one foot kind of up into the hip crease of the other, like almost like a half lotus. We're just gonna fold forward here. This is really good for low back, to like lengthen all the muscles in the low back into the sacrum. You're just gonna fold, 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 fold where you can, and then drop your chin to your chest. Get some length at the back of your skull, relax the neck muscles, relax the jaw. And then breathe all the way down into the lowest part of the lungs. Breathe into the low back. Yeah, and the invitation is definitely to do anything you want in the practice today. So I'm glad I see some people doing something different, right? Come onto your back, whatever you need. This is like a restorative, like what do you need for balance, for coming into a place of peace in your own mind, in your own body right now. So you can feel free to completely ignore anything I'm doing. All right, from here, come on up, switch the cross of your legs. So whichever was in front, just switch it. And again, maybe take a little bit of a half lotus. Come forward, forward, forward. Stretch out of the low back. Hang out and breathe. And notice the quality of the breath as one tool that you always have in your toolkit to bring you back to a place of Tiferet, right? Can you actually be mindful of your breath, that like when I focus in and I listen and I watch the breath and I slow it down, that actually brings me back to a place of feeling centered. Yeah. Okay. Good, good, good. All right, we are going to come onto hands and knees and then move into a down dog. So whatever feels good for you. Again, like lots of freedom. That's the theme from Passover to Shavuot, right? This is all about freedom. So do what you need. You could stay on hands and knees. You could take a cat-cow or a child's pose, or you can come up into your down dog.
you're not inverting today for whatever reason, then again, just choose another option that feels good. Oh. And just kind of, if you're in your down dog, just shimmy your hips to the right. Just feel what that does. Notice what information your body's giving. And then shimmy both hips all the way over towards the left. Then come back through the center, bend your knees deeply, and lift your tailbone as the highest thing. Let everything else just like cascade down from there. Try to release the muscles in your neck here. Good, and straighten through the legs. You're gonna walk your feet towards your hands. Now, really important, pull your belly all the way in towards the back of the spine and tuck your tailbone slightly here. So there's a little bit of a scooping out of the belly just to protect the low back. And then bend the knees. Push down into the floor as you rise up to stand. Okay, let's do a little bit of right, left, center kind of stuff here. So bring your hands to your heart for a moment. Good. Let's just inhale the arms up. And then clasp one wrist and just arch over to the side for a little bit of a half moon pose. Push down into the opposite foot to really anchor and ground yourself, and then lengthen and breathe into the sideways, into that lung. And come up through the center and head over to the other side. Good. And come back up through the center. Bring your hands back to your heart. We're just going to come up onto the tiptoes for a moment. Yeah. So balance always requires centeredness, right? Even when we're asymmetrical, balancing on one foot or the other, it's always about bringing everything in towards the midline. The belly hugs into the spine. The inner thighs hug in towards the midline. Everything's pulling to the center. Even your gaze is kind of finding a centered place. Good. And come back down. Ooh. Why don't we just take one foot up and just circle it? Circle the other direction. And point and flex a few times. Good. And do the other foot. Yeah, so even this is balance. Just the standing on one foot is balance. So how do you engage the muscles, the core, keeping the heart space open, supple, to find that harmony in the pose. Good. And lower it back down. All right. You guys good to do a couple of sun salutations? Move through some lunges? All right, awesome. If you're not folding forward for whatever reason, you can just step back into a lunge, okay? Instead of like folding forward first. Okay, smile. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. As you exhale, diving forward, leading with the heart, and then the head drops down towards the ground. Inhale, halfway up, find that flat back. Good, belly in, nice and strong. Shoulder blades hug towards the midline. That's opening the heart, creating like a nice shelf for the back of the heart space. From there, knees bend, fingertips to the floor. Step your right foot all the way back. Bend the left knee, and then slowly rise up to your lunge. So the front knee is bent, the back heel is up, hips are facing forward. And just find centered, harmony, peace right here. Right here. So it's really interesting to notice when we're asymmetrical, it's hard to find that center. That's all we're practicing. Is like, how do I just keep coming back to a place that does feel, more grounded, stronger? It is about finding that inner strength, that resilience, that heart openness, right? We're not shutting ourselves down. All right, from your lunge here, you're gonna take a big sweep up with the arms. Good. Float the hands back down to the ground. Step your front foot back to meet your back foot. You're in a plank pose. You're gonna lower the knees and lower all the way down with the chest down to the ground. Good. From here, untuck the toes, elbows are up, fingers are on the floor. Hug your elbows into the side waist again, so you're strengthening that upper mid back. Push down into all 10 toenails on the floor, and then slowly lift. Just the shoulder blades are rolling back and squeezing together. Belly is hugging in. We're actually strengthening the low back here by doing this. The pelvic floor, the pelvic bone is down, but the belly is kind of lifting up. You should feel like you're trying to strengthen the whole abdominal section there. Good. If you want to come down for a moment, rest your head, relax your arms. You can shake your bottom side to side. One more option, same thing, keeping in a low cobra here, right? Just coming to that low cobra, or you can bring your hands forward of your shoulders. Yeah, a little farther forward and push down and come up a little higher. Elbows are still gonna pull in towards the midline. So the shoulders are down from the ears, the elbows and shoulder blades are hugging into the midline. That belly is pulling in and up. You should feel a nice, strong stretch in the belly, and the low back should not hurt at all in this pose. The low back is very secure and supported. Good. And then lower back down again. Make a pillow for your head, bend the knees, and just shake your heels side to side like a little windshield wiper. Okay, when you're ready, you'll come into a down dog. In your down dog, take at least 3 breaths with that even breathing where you're inhaling and exhaling, and find a sense of being very solid and stable and balanced here between the 2 hands, 2 feet. On your next inhale, look up between your hands. You'll step your right foot all the way to the front. You might need to help it along there. We're coming up to the lunge on the second side. So your right foot is forward, knees bent. Your back foot, the heel is up, the toes are facing forward, hips are facing forward. And again, we're just gonna find our balance here. Yeah, just settle into it. This is that central column from the crown of the head through the third eye, through the throat, through the heart space, through the belly, down through the tailbone, and down into the earth. So that's what we're trying to find. Everything to either side of that is just drawing into that midline and feeling like that's my center spin, like on a carousel, like a carousel horse, right? Imagine you have that, I don't even know what they would call it, the pole that runs through. Good. All right, from here, bring the arms up overhead. Big expression, good. As you exhale, bring the hands back down to the ground. You're gonna step your back foot up to the front. Good, hang out here in your forward fold. You can rock your hips side to side here. Just shake it out. And bend the knees and slowly rise up. Yeah. Okay, let's do a little balancing sequence that'll bring us into a triangle. Okay, so
you're gonna start towards the front of your mat. You're gonna lift up your whichever leg you're on. I'm standing on my right leg, I'm lifting my left, but it might look opposite to you. Good, and just, you can even kind of rest your palms on that thigh and feel like that thigh is pushing up and your palms are pushing down. Feel like that kind of, there's a strength that happens there in the belly when you do that. You feel that? Yeah, so I want the belly to feel strong, but I want the heart also to feel like you're not collapsing, right? There's like a strength here as well. Good. All right, take your hands to your sides. You're gonna extend that foot forward and then bend it. One more time, extend forward and bend. Put a slight bend in your standing leg. Reach, 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 reach. You're in a warrior 3 balance. And it's okay if you're wobbly, because that is the nature of things again. Excuse me. So when you're wobbly and when you're feeling off-centered and when you're feeling out of balance, what do you need to do to bring yourself back into balance? Sometimes that might be holding on to something. Sometimes it might be putting your foot down and resetting. Sometimes it might be getting out of your head and all of the negative stuff you're saying to yourself, right? Like get kinder and gentler with yourself. And you have to get out of your own way first before you could restore that sense of balance. Okay, stand it up, let it go. Okay, let's do that on the second side. So whichever leg is your opposite, stand up tall on that leg and bring up your other knee. And that same feeling of like, if I press down, it actually elevates me. You feel that? Like the tendency would be to be here, but like I'm pushing down and I'm resisting. And now I'm really integrating. There's more strength there. That's like the Gevura piece of it. There's a boundary. My hand is creating a boundary for this leg. That meeting point in pushing against each other is very Gevura, strong. Right? And then we can just extend and bend, extend, bend, and one more time, extend, and then bend yourself into your warrior 3 on this side. And you can play with, is it helpful to have wings out to the side or maybe behind you? I actually like that. Try if you want to try that. When you extend both hands behind you, again, there's something about like that feeling of like hugging the shoulder blades towards each other that keeps the heart open. Yeah. And then come back up to stand. Okay. Let's do one more standing sequence and then maybe we'll just do more restorative and we'll get into the back. Low back stuff, but we have knee issues, right? So we have to, all right, maybe we'll do like a stand. Do we still
my knees are great now.
Oh, okay, fabulous. Great. Okay, let's do a little triangle pose. So you're gonna lift up your stands on your right leg. Sorry, guys. Whatever way you see me. You're gonna stand on your right leg. You're gonna lift your left leg. And you're gonna send that left leg back behind you. And we're coming into like a warrior 2 stance. So you want to give your feet a wide enough space between each other that your hips can kind of open. You have room to descend here. So you might need to inch forward or back. Yeah. Yeah. So stretching the inner thighs. Okay. Take your hands, one forward, one back. And we're just going to do this play of pulling ourselves back and pulling ourselves forward, like a tug of war here. Between these 2 poles. Whatever the duality is for you, that's playing out. So before we started the class, Amy shared about her daughter in dance, and it's either like all great and perfect or all horrible, and there's no middle ground. And I see that with a lot of teenagers. I see that with a lot of adults. Like we have very all or nothing thinking. And there's some real merit to finding ourselves somewhere in the middle and recognizing it's not all or nothing. All right, bring your back hand back and then just reach yourself over. Actually, in the Tanya, they talk about that, this concept of the Benoni, that almost nobody is purely, wholly, completely righteous and perfect, and almost no one is purely, completely evil. That really 99.9% of us live somewhere in the middle. We're always somewhere in the middle. So then the question is, how do we find ourselves on that spectrum? And how do we come back to feeling centered when we're getting into that? All right, you're gonna come forward. Bring your forearm to the thigh, deepen that front knee bend again if you can. This arm could stay either down by your side, it can reach forward over your ear. If you'd like to open the shoulder, you can kind of bend that elbow and reach the hand behind you, whatever is good for you here. You want to feel the inner thighs stretching, but the belly is pulling in. So think about your tailbone reaching down towards that back heel. The belly is really hugging into the spine, so we're supporting the low back. Heart is open. Good. You might want to drop your ear to your shoulder here so that you're getting space out of the side of the neck with that upper arm. That could feel really nice. You can open your jaw here. Stick out your tongue, say ah. Maybe just take a gentle rocking motion of your head forward and back. Really just explore what's happening in the muscles in your neck. Good. All right, from here, you're going to straighten the front leg and step the back foot in a tiny bit. If you have a block here, it might be nice. We're coming into triangle pose. So the block could be just to the outside of the pinky toe edge of the foot, or in a little closer, like right under your shoulder. And again, same thing. We're kind of reaching, but you're trying to keep that back foot strong and you're lengthening out of the sideways. There's the belly pulling in, a little bit of a feeling of a twist. Those underside ribs are wrapping around. And then the arm can come straight up to the sky. Good. Squeeze the front leg thigh, like pull the muscles in towards the bone and see how when you pull into the center, you get stronger. Pull the belly in and see how you get stronger. And now come into your breath and see if you could just breathe calmly. You want to extend the arm long overhead. You can do that as well. Just get that extra out of that hip and side waist. Sometimes the low back is really tight because our outer hips and our, right, all of this. So this is nice to stretch the low back. Good. All right, from here, bring your hand to the side of your waist, bend your front knee. If you've got that block, you're going to place that block forward of your front foot. Just for fun, nothing too serious. You're going to step all your weight into that front leg, lift your back leg up. We're in some version of a half moon balance. And what if the balance here isn't about perfection? It's not about gevura either. Like, it's not like strength. It's just about harmony and peacefulness. Can you be in a pose that's imperfect, that's wobbling, that's not fully centered, and still find a sense of harmony and beauty in that? All right, you can bend that front knee. Woo, bring the other foot down. Let's just shake it out. How you guys doing? All right, we got the other side to go. Okay, let's start back at the front of the mat. This is where my brain fog and allergies are going to get to me. Where did we start? We just stepped back to start? Is that it? Okay, so stand. Okay, great, thank you. Stand on your left leg, lift your right knee. Good, put a slight bend in the standing leg. You're going to step that right foot back behind you. You're coming into warrior two. Yep. Yeah, and just take the time to set up your pose.
Give yourself some space to open up. Up. And then we did a little bit of that forward and back, right? And there might be one area that feels like your comfort zone. Like we get that way, right? Is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? Am I an optimist or a pessimist? We dualize a lot of things, and we maybe are more comfortable on one side or the other. But we always have the capacity to have all of those parts of ourselves. I think one big one for me, where balance is really key, is around work and rest, right? This feeling of like always having to be doing, and I have all these commitments and all of my work and the time that takes and the effort and energy, and then balancing that with real ease and leisure and letting everything go. And I think that's really nice in Judaism, the whole idea of Shabbat, right? Is like to come back to this place of balance, harmony. Yeah. All right, we're gonna reach it back. And then we're gonna come forward into the extended side angle. Find your variation, whatever you're doing, make sure your belly is drawing in. Good. And then again, that arm can either come forward, it can come behind you, and play with opening the neck on this side as well. I mean, just the weight of your head dropping towards the shoulder is going to give you a lot of opening traction there. Good. From here, we straighten the front leg, maybe stepping the back foot in a little closer, and find some variation of triangle pose for yourself. You can take the arm straight up. You can take the half bind again with that hand behind the low back. You can extend the arm forward, whatever option feels good for you. But find your belly and draw it in. Find the muscles on your legs and hug them in. Coming back to some center point. You're not just reaching forward, you're reaching forward and back. You're pressing down and you're reaching up. All right, half moon. You know it's coming. Hand to the waist. Bend your front knee. That block steps forward. And just coming up into some calm, peaceful, beautiful expression of your half moon here. Can your breath be calm? All right. When you're ready, you can fold over your legs. Just give yourself a little bounce or shake. Pull the belly in, drop the tailbone, and then lift yourself up. Okay, let's come down on the mat. Let's do a little bit of just some pelvic tilts. I think that's really, really good for the low back, and then we'll do some other stuff there. So your feet are in front of your hips. Your knees are, parallel to each other. You're gonna lift up the tailbone and press the low back in. And then you're gonna press the tailbone down and lift the low back up. That's all you're doing. A very, very small movement here. Just a pelvic tilting one way and tilting the other way. This is gonna strengthen your belly. It's also gonna do some gentle kind of myofascial release work in the muscles around the sacrum. Good. And the next time, if you want to press all the way into your feet and lift up, you can do that. Now, this requires some real strength in the feet and strength in the glutes to protect the low back. You don't want to kind of dump into the low back. Knees are hugging towards each other, towards the center line again. Good. And then slow, slow, slow. Unfurl vertebra by vertebra as you lower back down. Belly is very strong, keeping the tailbone lifted until the very end. Lower the sacrum. Good. All right. Options here. If you want to take a forward folding pigeon, you can take time to do that in your practice now. If it's better for your knees or your hips to do a reclining pigeon, or you're already here, so this feels good and you don't want to roll over, take your choice. But the idea here is that we're doing a nice deep glute stretch. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna hug the knee in and then press that other kind of hip away from you. You can maybe use your elbow to do that, or take your hand and just kind of gently, you're trying to open up space out of this hip. You can also take circles here. Is everybody on their back? Looks like. Okay. So from here, let's try a little bit of a Gomukhasana, which will go even more into the low back muscles. So what you're going to do is you're going to slide your ankle farther over to the opposite side. So you're bringing inner thigh to inner thigh and knee over knee. Okay. So, right. So you're sliding and you're basically knee over knee. I'll show it to you from this direction as well. So you started here and now you're kind of bringing that knee across. So knee, inner thighs are squeezing together, knee over knee. You're going to reach for your shins or wherever you could reach, maybe your ankles, right? And those are like handlebars on like an old banana seat bicycle. Those wide handlebars on a bike. And you're just going to gently stretch where the knees and the ankles are coming closer into the chest. But then think about pressing your low back down to the ground. So there's definitely a resistance that's happening there. As you're pressing the tailbone down, you're actually lengthening the low back muscles. And this here is lengthening those outer hip muscles. And then you can rock side to side here, see how that feels, or take some circles here. You may notice those sensitive kind of areas where you're like, oof, that feels a little tender. And that's just information, you know, about what you need. If you have like a handheld massage gun, once you do a pose like this, you're like, oh, that's where I need to get in with that massage gun. And then you can go take care of that. All right. Release that out. Bring both feet up to the sky and just and flex and circle the ankles a few times. And then take the opposite side. So first we started with the pigeon. Just gonna cross the ankle. Yep. So notice what's happening even here in your breath. Notice where you tend to hold on. See if you can invite in that even, balanced breathing. You know, the teaching in yoga is that the breath is the truth. Emet, right? Emet is truth. And the truth in the pose is the breath. When you're holding your breath, the truth is that you're gripping or resisting something. When you're even and calm and flowing in the breath, then the truth of the pose is that whatever else you're experiencing in your body, you're doing it with a sense of ease and balance. So we
can trick ourselves and move into balance by making the breath even. All right, from here, you're going to slide that ankle over to the other side, inner thigh to inner thigh, squeeze those together, knee over knee, and then reach for whatever you can clasp here. And this side may be completely different than the other side. Just notice what you can do here. The feeling you want is that the sacrum itself and the muscles that are all supporting and connecting into the sacrum are spreading and widening. So that's the feeling you want to have here. Like you can actually widen and bring more spaciousness into the low back. Take those circles if you did on the other side, or just that rocking side to side. Maybe you notice that feels good. All right, and when you're ready to release that, again, you could either bring legs up to the sky, you could take happy baby, right? Whatever feels good for you. So. All right. So I'm gonna suggest, if it feels good for you, if you're fine in your neck, just because some of us have said that we feel headachy and heavy and the weather is very like, there's a heaviness and all that. I'm gonna offer like for us to do like a little bit of head and neck massage or stretching, if that feels good. But if you want to do anything else, then do anything else. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just using our own hands, and you can sit up on a blanket if that's more comfortable for you. But I just want you to take your own, like you're getting like the best scalp massage. Take all your fingers and really kind of get in there. And you may use your thumbs to really find like where are the sore points. Sometimes we hold so much inflammation. And our head itself, like we never really kind of attend to it to try to flush out that inflammation. So this is an act of self-care, self-love, just really kind of giving yourself what you need here. And see if you can relax your jaw as you're doing this, relax your eyes and your eyelids, as opposed to like adding more tension by like scrunching up, right? See if you can still breathe. If you find a place which feels especially kind of swollen or knotty, you can kind of hang out there and give it what it needs. Okay. If you would like to come onto your head a little bit, let's see if I have what that would look like is kind of coming from hands and knees, right? And you're just going to bend your elbows and place the top of the head down to the ground. And you're using the ground as a boundary to do some more massage. So it might look like you're just rocking forward and back, or a little bit side to side over that middle suture line in the skull.
If you happen to have a headstand practice and you want to go up into a headstand or some variation of that, you're welcome to do that. But we don't need to do that at all. Nice. Just gonna keep an eye on you guys. Yep.
Okay. And then let's come into a little bit of shoulder and neck releases. And then we'll just lie down and do a final like restorative. So just another just gentle neck and shoulder. So you're going to reach over with your fingertips to the opposite side and just gently, gently traction the ear to the shoulder. You're going to take the other hand down to the floor. Open your jaw here. Stick out your tongue. You can gently roll your neck down to your throat and then gently open the chin back up. So you're just finding range of motion here. Good. And you can bring that arm out to the side and then turn the palm all the way behind you and turn the palm all the way forward. And again, this is just an opportunity to notice which side is tighter, is more bound up, you know? How do we bring more balance? How do we open this, what needs to be opened, bring attention and loving care to what needs it? Good. Drop the hand back down to the floor again. Release the other hand. Come up to the center and just stay there for a moment. Close your eyes and feel internally. Let your breath be really slow and calm. Is there more ease? Good. And now we can do the other side. So gently find fingertips to the side of the skull. Gentle, gentle traction, and you're just creating space out of that shoulder. Fingertips can start at the floor. And a little bit of that head rocking. And then lift the arm up and spin shoulder one direction and the other. Trying to keep your jaw relaxed, keep your breath relaxed. Good, and lower the fingertips again. Yeah, really, really good stretch in there. And release the head, and again, just finding center. And you might even, before we lie down, I'll just find the central column from the crown of your head all the way through the spine, down to the tailbone. And I want you to imagine that that is like this bright, white, clear light. So just filling your central column with beautiful, pure energy. And bringing your awareness to the heart space and just breathing in and filling that heart space with your breath and breathing out again from that same space. So bringing our attention, tuning into the center of ourselves as a place for harmony. All right, to finish out the practice, you can definitely do anything at all you want. one thing I would suggest is maybe a very, very gentle heart opening. So maybe like a blanket rolled up right underneath the heart space. If you don't have a blanket and you have 2 blocks, you can do blocks under that heart space, just like a little like supported fish pose, right? So what that looks like is I'm just integrating my mid back muscles, and it's just giving me a nice little extra stretch out of the low back and out of the shoulders, right? Just like that. I'll show you what that looks like with blocks if you need. And you're also free to just lie in your shavasana or anything else you might need. Bring your awareness back to your breath and try to come into that very calm, balanced breathing. When you're ready, you can stretch your arms and toes. And roll yourself over to one side. You can hold yourself there for a moment. And just creating this sensation of being settled, easy, calm. Aseh shalom b'mama, Uya aseh shalom aleinu vel kol Yisrael, vel kol yoshvei tevel, Amen. A little bit of a lazy practice this morning, but it's okay. I hope it gave you something that you needed.
Thank you.
Wasn't so